but a new system. So it's nice to see Time Traveling Prototype, one of our members, is online, and hopefully Miguel. So after 3 years of being yeeted and beated, well, check my English is buffering today. After yeetings and beatings, it's finally Brian's turn to talk about Deshi life, what it's like living and working and being a full-time Uchi Deshi. So Uchi Deshi literally means the inside student or the inner student. And traditionally the role was to groom the next student, not like that, to groom the next student to take over the dojo. So it was a very elevated position within the dojo, but that's not exactly what Brian's been doing here for the last 3 years. So Brian, tell everyone about how you came to be Uchi Deshi, what your last 3 years has been like in terms of living with us, with our family, and all the different roles you had to play, and yeah, what your experience as an Uchi Deshi life has been.
Well, to sum everything up over the past 3 years is going to be a bit of a tricky one. For one, it was a lot of work, and it was quite a bit of something to adjust to. So it'd be wake up in the morning, do some chores around the house, and then early afternoon start with class after class, work, train, a little bit of teaching, and then back to forth. It was definitely a unique experience as well, because I got to learn a little bit about karate, a little bit of teaching, and a lot of other things as well. A lot of things regarding life and growing up and just being responsible adults and like all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, very interesting things like that. Yeah, very unique experience, but a very hard one as well. I would get a lot of work, but also I would get spoiled a lot as well. I was a very spoiled Deshi. Got to have amazing dinners every single night. There wasn't one night where I had a bad meal. So 2 years living here, 3 years working here, not one bad meal. And yeah.
I think there was one or two cut meals where I cooked, because this is their Jagger cooks, it's always good. My husband, those are new to our channel. Brian, let's talk about what was the hardest part physically of being a Deshi? Because it's not just the karate. It's more than just karate. It's a whole lifestyle.
I think is maintaining your energy levels and enthusiasm. So like the first week, you can get through it pretty easy and still be excited and happy and energetic and all of that. But week after week after week after week of running through the same thing over and over and over again, you start to kind of run out of energy, and then it gets difficult to kind of keep yourself motivated. And then that's where I really got my appreciation for teaching karate, because like it really takes something special to be able to kind of like pick up your energy levels and like keep going. And if you're working with the kids, you've got to maintain a high energy level, because if you can't maintain a high energy level, then the kids, they definitely won't. They definitely won't be able to follow. So that's a tricky one. Being able to keep your energy levels up and staying motivated, and also keeping them motivated as well. For me, that was the hardest part. So maintaining that was definitely the hardest.
And also, so I'm speaking as someone who also did Uchi Deshi 3 years, but not living here. I had my own place because I started late. I became a Deshi at 30. So whereas you started Deshiship at 24. And the other Deshis, Jojo, Jade, Moritz, Ruby, and Andrew, they all started straight out of school. So I was the oldest Deshi, Deshi number 7, and you Deshi number 8, and Kyle. But Kyle did his with Nick. Oh, I see. Blink 3 times if you're being held as a hostage. Hello, our favorite Lithuanian. The thing is, Brian's actually a free elf now. We gave him a sock and a certificate. We literally had an award ceremony, and we gave him a sock. So now his title is no longer Deshi. He's actually sensei now. He's done his time. So then back to the emotional difficulty of being a Deshi. You are isolated in many ways because you don't have as much time, and we gave you pretty free reign compared to the hardcore Deshi life. But you do find that you become a karate man, essentially. Tell us what that was like, watching your friends, being able to drink and you had to get up to train, the isolation of it.
Well, for me, I gave myself a unique challenge to try and balance both. So I had free reign. I was able to go out and party and see my friends and all of that. So I would go out and drink, try not to drink too much, and then so long as I was able to make training in the morning and be here on time, then I was fine. So for me, that was like the personal challenge that I set up for myself. Not really, didn't really train with the hangover, but I mean, sometimes, like on an early Saturday morning, there would still be the effects from the previous night and so on. Yeah, I pretty much free reign. I had a lot of freedom. Yeah.
Well, we didn't. So there's a lot of this idea that being an Uchideshi is supposed to be like this ascetic monk life. I was just checking questions. Calvary is on the way, all the way to South Africa. So Sensei Ronnie Kluger believed that the Uchideshi life must be a very strict monkish, like no drinking, no socializing, not going out anywhere. Zoe Jagger, who's in the house, life behind living with the Deshi with the grumpy sensei. The grumpy sensei's in the house taking care of the children. We have a very, very equitable marriage. And besides, the kind of interviewing thing is more my style, having, being an English major and all of that. So what are the kind of tricks that you've learned being a Deshi that you're going to apply in your everyday life? I'll check that question.
What are the tricks that I'm going to apply in my everyday life that I've learned from?
Names and all of that.
Oh, that's easy. So I think for my social life, I kind of made it a thing to remember names like this. So that's something that carried into karate life as opposed to from karate life into my social life. But when it comes to learning names, I'll kind of like play around with it in my head. So especially like if it's a name that I'm not too familiar with, I'll hear it and then straight after I will repeat the name back to the person. So if I'm like, hi, what's your name? Oh, Zoe. Nice to meet you. I'm Brian. Tell me about yourself, Zoe, or whatever the case is. And then after round, I'll play around with the name in my head, and then it just kind of sticks like that. So that's one thing, if that answers the question.
It does. So we've had a very interesting question here, and I'm sorry if I butcher your beautiful username. Kuno Asta Design. Oh, I'm so sorry. What are the basic elements that you have to master to be a great warrior? That's a deep question. Immersion? Persistence? Conditioning? Sacrifice?
Sacrifice, consistency, discipline, all of those things that you can think at the top of your head, they all apply.
I think you kind of have to give up on other things. Like we always talk about like the really like hardcore karate men and what they had to sacrifice to be the best in their field. Karate wife, hard life is a phrase for a reason. And I think if you're a great warrior, maybe having something to fight for, I think, makes you a great warrior.
Yeah, definitely. I think you just got to find whatever your why is. Why do you want to do this? And then when your why is strong enough, then you can overcome any how.
Very good question. Hi, Mia from our dojo, one of our amazing new students and families that have joined us this year. Asking, low sound, let Brian speak into the mic too. Thank you for letting me know. What motivated you to become a Deshi and in essence a sensei?
So at first, it wasn't really in my goal to be Deshi or even a sensei. It was kind of just a reason to come here and spend as much time training as much as I can. So while doing that, I thought, hey, let me just tick this box off and tick that box and tick that box. And I thought, well, might as well go through with it and then see how far I can go with it. And here I am.
Yeah, big shiny certificate on the wall. Lovely question from Time Traveling Prototype. As a Deshi, how much time did you spend on conditioning versus technique? Also, how much did being in Ché's video demonstration partnership help in conditioning? I can tell you that every now and then, if you left Brian alone in the dojo, within a couple of minutes, you'd hear the makiwaras from the house. Waka, waka, getting hit. So yeah, and so I think talk about your conditioning, also what it's like being a very visible Deshi on YouTube.
Being a visible Deshi is a unique kind of a challenge because when I'm doing videos with Sensei, I've kind of got to like read his mind. For those who don't know, most of that is shot on the spot. There's no pre-planning anything really. We set up the camera and the light boxes and everything, and Sensei's like, this is what we're going to do. And then I just got to follow the command straight after. And then sometimes there's a mistake and that gets edited out, but for the most part, it's all on the spot. So that's a unique challenge. Does that really answer the question? Can we read the question again, please?
Yeah, how much time did you spend on conditioning versus
Uh,
technique as well? On your own conditioning and technique?
in my own time, it varies. I sometimes I'll spend the morning doing kata. Sometimes I'll work with the weights or work with the chishi. It's just whatever I feel in the moment. Sometimes I'll feel like cardio needs to be worked on, so I'll run up and down. I'll do the pyramid drills, and then I'll work from there. I just take it as it comes.
So it's a one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what's your favorite part of karate? Is it kata? Is it hojo undo? Is it kumite, randori? And has any of that changed while you've become a deshi? Have you gained an appreciation for anything different?
Well, my favorite part has always been the randori, the Chinese wrestling, and doing that back to back to back to back to back. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But since being a deshi, the physical conditioning and working with the weights, hojo undo, all of that has become quite high up on my priority right now. So, yeah. But for the most part, my favorite part is still doing kumite, randori, Chinese wrestling, things like that. And then working on um, different ideas with bunkai and flow drills and inkakie. That's all a lot of fun as well. And like brainstorming, coming up with new ideas, all of that becomes a lot of fun as you start to branch out and your creativity bubble starts to expand. So yeah.
You know, one of the things about being one of Zoe Jagger-Hinis now, the two of us being the last two in line, we don't know when the next one will come. They come at the right time as the universe sends them. But you end up getting fully immersed in karate education because Shay has now got someone captive to talk to for 24 hours a day about everything he's gained in the 40 years he's been training. So you get a very rounded karate education in terms of education around history, the politics of karate, the federations, the different signatures of different styles. I came to appreciate as a deshi something I never appreciated before was hojo undo. I never loved hojo undo before I started becoming a deshi, but having to do so much chishi and so much hojo undo in this dojo changed my approach. Now it's actually my favorite thing in the world is hojo undo, then bunkai, then kata. Mm-hmm. I enjoy randori, but I find it very intimidating still. And I have lost, in the last 5 years, I've lost 2 years to pregnancy and babies. So I'll always feel a bit rusty in that regard. So what do you plan to do with your senseiship now? Do you plan to open your own dojo? Do you want to be a Ronin? I know the answer because I spend most of the week with you, but I think for everyone to know where you're going next and if you're going to leave us or what your plans are from here, I think would be nice for them to know.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the admin skills. I don't have the responsibility to be able to run my own dojo. The idea of becoming a Ronin and running around and working with other people, training with other people, I like that idea. But for now, I'd still like to work and train and teach it, do everything that I did as a Deshi. I'd like to stay here a little bit longer and keep doing that. Yeah. So that's what I'd like. I can't handle running a dojo. I can't handle the responsibility of doing that. It's not for me.
And you know, I think one of the points of the Deshi program, one of the reasons why it's so intense, is we actually want to prune out those who are not ready or equipped for this life, because we're responsible for a lot of people, their bodies when they're with us. We have to worry about injuries. We have to worry about. You saw this week we had to deal with the teens. So the dojo has introduced. Well, we've always had a wall covered in black paint. But I bought a 40 Rand box of chalk, which for our American viewers is $2. And the kids have been writing graffiti, but obviously you're always going to get someone who ruins it, so I had to deal with slurs, and Hitler was here. I don't know if Hitler's a reference to me or Sensei Jagger, but anyway. So it's things like that we have to deal with that you can ultimately walk away from. Mm-hmm. You know, we take on, yes, we get the glory, but we also take on the responsibility. You guys know spiritual practice to make you a better fighter, like meditation or breathing, something like that. My name means know thyself in Romanian. Ah, that's so cool. We love it. Definitely mokso and meditation, I think, is a part of the journey, of the Buddha journey. We probably should do more mindfulness and more moving meditation. I mean, that's essentially what I think Sunshin's goal is, to forge the mind like a sword.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on Sunshin and meditation as part of your practice.
I've never included meditation in my own personal training. I think it'll go as far as doing Sunshin or even Tensho here and there. But I do think doing meditation a few times a week will most likely definitely help you with your training overall. Or even if you don't train or do any martial arts, meditation definitely has its benefits.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe meditation is something we can all consider including in our training.
Interesting note on that. I think one of the reasons why a lot of dojos don't do meditation, and one of the reasons why we don't really talk about it, is that people see it as a religious practice, which it's not. It is used by religions, but it's not inherently religious, or at least we don't think so. But we have found that people find it's very like woo, or it offends their religion. So I think that's the main reason we leave it out of our dojo, is that we have people of all beliefs and walks of life, and for some of them, meditation is a deal breaker. And it's unfortunate we have to consider these things in running a modern dojo. But I think in our individual practice, absolutely. And it's even in the whole idea of mind without mind, mushin no shin, or mushin no mushin. Someone will correct me in the comments, I'm sure. But I think, yeah, I think we could all stand to do a little bit more meditative practice. But yeah, so let's swap injury Deshi stories. I had a rotator cuff injury from taking the ukemi from Kuruntra from overhead, and I got a concussion, but not from Sensei Jagger, from another instructor. It was during my Deshi ship. I was tired. I wasn't paying attention because I was shuttling between dojos. So yeah, those are my two most serious Deshi things. And then when I went through my Deshi journal, I'd been training while sick a lot towards the end. So yeah, share your war stories.
From worst to mildish injury, Sensei has dislocated my shoulder from a throw, and it was on the soft mat. No. Weirdly enough. I have had a swollen testicle. I've broken a toe. And interestingly, when I broke my toe, it wasn't from training. It was when Sensei decided to move tree logs and tree stumps from the neighbor.
Oh, yes, that's a good Deshi.
Yeah, so we had moved all of the logs down to the driveway, and I rolled one funny, and it landed on my toe, so I broke my little toe on my left foot. And you think I have the blue eye from Dylan, and I have pulled hamstrings. Couldn't kick properly for a long time, and then when I was a little bit younger, I pulled something in my back. That was my longest injury. But I think my shoulder was probably the worst. But other than that, nothing terrible has happened. Yeah. I've never experienced a concussion, so I don't know what that feels like. And yeah, that's about it. Very mild injuries.
I think if you're getting trained to the point, work abuse, says Sensei Jagger. So the whole reason why Deshis end up doing a lot of labor. Then, so just I'll come back to this awesome question from Time Traveler. Sensei Chinen, when Sensei Jagger and Sensei Mario went to Spokane in Washington, they were made to move rocks from one side of the garden to the other. But Sensei Miyagi literally made Chinen do the same thing and move rocks. And to see, like, can you do things, and are you teachable? Are you humble enough to accept? So being a Deshi, my first thing, I remember very clearly when I got here, my first day as a Deshi, was to clean up the Jagger Christmas tree. You know, pack the Christmas decorations away. And I was like, what has this got to do with karate? I came here to do karate. So, yeah, that's a whole nother story in and of itself. So regarding broken toe, I found I've injured myself more since I returned to karate, but never due to karate. Yeah, definitely. At least your effort was legitimate. Mine was always silly. Yeah, the dumbest injuries are always the worst. Yeah. So I think because we're now going on to only 20 minutes, but we only had a few questions on our thing. Oh, and I just want to say, well, we've got 16 people here. The channel hit 20,000 subscribers today. So yay! Thank you for your support. Brian, is anything you want to share before we go about what it's meant to you and how this journey has been and what advice you would have for anyone who would think about becoming a Deshi if they decide to come here with a backpack to our door and to wait outside for a week until we let them in. Yes, 20K. I did mention 20K. Oh, did I only say 2,000? I meant 20,000. 20,000 subscribers. What advice would you give to someone who's watched maybe one or too many movies and they want to live that true karate man life, that Uchideshi life? What advice would you give them?
That's a big question. I think I would say be prepared for a long process, like a very long process. It takes a very long time before you start seeing any kind of results. So if you want to do it, you should most definitely give it a try and try and stick it out for the full 3 years. But yeah, just be prepared to wait it out. And then while you're doing it, take in the process. Take things as they come. And that's a big, big question. It's a long process. Just got to try and wait it out. And every day, train as hard as you can. Every single day is a unique experience. So look at it that way.
I know. I mean, you've had to learn everything from administration. You've done first aid course. You've done your second day in grading. We made you get car insurance. We've had financial literacy lessons because that's important. So all our Deshis now get a financial literacy course and they get given a book called How to Manage Your Money Like a Grown-Up. Sensei Jagger says you learn to make good coffee. Absolutely. First rule of being a Deshi is learn to make good coffee because you will be on perpetual coffee duty. I don't know how I'm going to live now without having permanent coffee slaves in the house. I have to actually get up and make my own coffee like a poor person. Not that I mind. My coffee is good, but your coffee always tastes better when someone else makes it. You've got to learn to deal with. You've learned to deal with parents. You've learned to deal with teens and their drama. Hey, that's a nice question from our Romanian. Do you have a favorite move, punch, or kick?
Punch.
Or a million tornado kicks that you've been practicing?
So the tornado kick, I can only do it with my good leg. If I try to do it the other way, then it kind of looks a bit hideous. Favorite punch? Don't know. I think the good old Yakuzuki is a staple for most of us. Nice as well. I'm playing around with an overhand, but I've got to tweak that a little bit. Favorite one to play around with is the tornado kick or a spinning hook kick. But most reliable one in Randori is probably a rear leg roundhouse kick. It's basic, it's easy, it's most reliable.
And favorite kata?
Favorite kata to do, favorite kata to watch, or...
What is your favorite to perform? Which do you enjoy doing?
At the moment, my favorite kata is seppai. For its aesthetics and its bunkai as well. Every now and then, like the real basic bread and butter Geksara etch is still also one of my favorites. You can't go wrong with going through your basic kata.
So, and I think this is maybe one of our last 2 or 3 questions. You have now done 2 black belt gradings. What's your advice for someone who is going towards black belt and not only just the physical preparation, but the mental and emotional preparation? If someone was grading tomorrow, what would you tell them?
Be prepared for a long, grueling night. Depending on where you're grading, which association you're in, you're most likely going to be in for a long night. They're going to make you do a lot of hojo undo, a lot of fitness. They're going to try and work you out. Then after that, then they're going to start testing you. And then it becomes a test of character. Do you have grit? Can you push through? All of those questions start being asked. And then, yeah, that's also a relatively big question. It's a long night and a long weekend. So leading up to your black belt grading, make sure that you know your content. I think that is probably the most stressful thing, making sure you know all the bunkai, all the kata, and that you can do it all correctly. After that, then you just gotta grind through all of the hard physical training and all the stuff that they ask of you.
Yeah, so I think we'll quickly touch on what our dojo's requirements are for black belt, because I think we've got a very, very high standard and a very difficult standard. So you have to do Kyo Nippon, which is 10-step attack. There is Bunkai for all your kata up to whichever, so Shishoshin or Sanseru. There's 100 randori, so 100 fights of a minute or 50 fights of 2 minutes, but either way. There's the Hojo-Undo test, which is 4 hours. Well, about 3 to 4 hours. That includes cleaning the dojo, Chishi, Congo Ken, kettlebell, calisthenics, and that's grueling. And that's the night before the actual grading itself. And the grading itself, there's a 4-hour gashku. The test itself is about 2 to 3 hours. It's about 48 hours of back-to-back suffering, but also there's a long build-up. And it's basically like when you run comrades, and this is the advice the old Topis used to give me for comrades. Absolutely. Sensei Jagger just posted, we aim to strip away all the candidates' layers, time and fatigue on my tools. You'll give you like as small as kettlebell, but anything done 1,000 times is still exhausting. So when you run comrades or any big marathon, you kind of, every run or every kilometer is like R1 or $1 in the bank. And comrades is the day you make your withdrawal. So the more you put in, the more likely you will have left over when you withdraw. So the idea of black belt is every single lesson you put in is 10 Rand towards your big withdrawal when the grading comes. So if you put in your time and you trust the process, you will make it on the day. Because by the time the day runs around and now someone who sits on the grading panel, we know whether you're going to pass or not. The test is a formality. I mean, you really have to butcher the test to not pass, because we've been watching for months and we know who you are. And you won't get invited to grade if you're not ready anyway, or shouldn't be invited to grade if you're not ready anyway. So yeah, it's an exhausting process. Now you've got your second Dan. Your next goal is going to be third Dan, which is 2 more years from now, and your level 3 first aid. So yeah, the journey doesn't stop because he's now in a sensei. My journey hasn't stopped, and neither has Ché Jagger's, because he's still got 6th Dan to go and 7th Dan to go, and growing as an instructor. And, you know, if we're lucky, we get to do this Goju Ryu thing until we're old, like the Okinawans. And that's our long-term goal. Yeah, I think we've been chatting for half an hour. I think that's long enough. And is there anything you want to add, or anything you... I mean, we'll probably think of something as soon as you turn the camera off. Probably. But yeah, I think time to go braai. We love to braai in South Africa, not barbecue. It's not the same. We braai. We're going to go put some meat on the fire. It's a beautiful evening while autumn's coming. And yeah, Brian, thank you for everything. It's exciting to see you grow. It's been a journey for both Ché and I. And yeah, we'll see who comes next on the Deshi ladder. You may be the last Deshi we ever have if no one else worthy comes up to the plate. But thank you for all your work. We really appreciate you. Thank you to everyone. Sensei Jagger just typed to Briar's on. You're most welcome. And thank you everyone who commented. If you have any ideas for videos or anything you want to see, you could drop it in the comments. You're so welcome, Mia. We're always happy to share our knowledge. And this is such a nice, informal way to do it. Hi. Arigatou gozaimasu. Sayonara. From the Goju Karate Center. Ciao. Happy Friday.